It's Texas, Ohio State. Spread here is moved down, and all these bets and lines are that happens all the time. But as of right now, the line moved down to 1.5. Ohio State favored by 1.5. It was 2.5 just yesterday. So the lines moved. Money's come in. Ohio State money line is -11. Texas is -108. 3 point difference there on the money line, and the over under is 46.5. So my impact players in this game are Arch Manning for Texas offensively, Quintavion Wisner, 1,000-guy yard last year, and DJ Campbell is only returning guy back on the offensive line for Texas. For Ohio State, obviously Jeremiah Smith. I don't even need to explain why. James Peoples is a sophomore running back, kind of unproven, but a very talented guy. He was a 4-star out of last year's class. I think he'll make a big impact on the game. And Carnell Tate, other wide receiver. The reason I didn't say Julian Sain is because he's just a little more unproven to me than Arch Manning is. And I think Arch, if I had to take a guy right now, I'd take Arch. Impact players on defense for Texas, I have Colin Simmons, one of the best edge guys in the nation. Anthony Hill, one of the best linebackers in the nation. And Michael Taffy at free safety, one of the best safeties in the SEC. Moving on to Ohio State, a lot of the same. Caleb Downs is possibly the best college football player in the nation. Obvious reasons. The dude can cover the whole field. He can hit a lick on you, or he can take the ball out of the air. Elite talent there. Dude's going to go top 10 in the draft most likely. David Igbinosun, corner, he was very inconsistent last year. I talked about this in my first rankings video, how inconsistent he was. He had very high highs and very low lows. He needs to be more consistent this year. And the reason I have him on here is because I think he will be. Bo Atkinson at edge. This is the dude who's not. I don't see him being technically a starter in quotations, but he'll take the bulk of the reps just because when you get a transfer in, so he transfers in from UNC. When you get a transfer in, most of the times they put their guys as the starter. Kind of like Elijah Badger last year with Florida, was technically not the starter, it was Khalil Jackson, but everyone knew who was going to be taking the most reps. It's going to be Bo Atkinson here at the edge position. Elite talent, very good. I think he can shine at Ohio State better than he could UNC. Okay, let's get into a little bit of the weeds of the game. I have a few questions here and few matchups that I'm going to be looking for. One of these is Ohio State's elite receiver core versus Texas's elite secondary. In the playoffs, Sugar Bowl, Jeremiah Smith had 1 reception for 3 yards. Obviously, Carnell Tate 8. But a lot of their receiving game came from Travion Henderson's big screen pass. Also, a few more receptions than him. And Quinshon Judkins through the passing game. So that's a question for me. A lot of guys are back from that Texas secondary. Malik Muhammad, Derek Williams is a 2 who's stepping up. Jalen Gilbo, starter at corner last year, he's back. Michael Taffy, obviously, as we mentioned before. But they also have a lot of depth. A lot of them are young guys, but a lot of depth. Jelani McDonald, Grayson Littleton, Xavier Flimsey, and also Kobe Black. Xavier was actually committed to Florida for a while and then flipped. But they have a very deep secondary, very experienced group. That's a very interesting matchup. But to add on to the receiving room for Ohio State, you have an elite tight end transfer, might be the best tight end in college football, in Max Clare. He carried Purdue's offense last year. So, how does he contribute to the receiving game? Also, Ohio State's unproven secondary to Texas' unproven receiving core. So kind of a flip-flop here. Some of these teams at the top have a few of the same quote-unquote issues. I'd call them question marks. I think this is a Ryan Wingo game. I think Ryan Wingo goes off. I think he shows his 5-star talent and shows why he was up there with Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith, respectively, in this game. Another matchup I'm looking for is Texas's edge guys versus Ohio State's unproven offensive line. Throwing in also Texas's linebackers in there because Texas likes to go. They like to send pressure. They like to send their backers, especially against a young quarterback such as Julian Sayin. Now, just because they're unproven on the offensive line, Ohio State, and they're a question mark, but they're not unbattled. Like they're a battle-tested group. A lot of these guys were twos last year who had to be plugged in and played, and they had a good offensive line rotation. So they're unproven but battle-tested. And then the same question for both teams. What is Julian saying? What is Arch Manning? I think both are going to be good, but if you had to tell me to take one now, I'd take Arch Manning. I think he's played more meaningful snaps, and what I've seen, I think he's a better quarterback as of right now. My next matchup in this game to look for is Texas' unproven but battle-tested offensive line versus Ohio State's unproven D-line. Texas has a lot of guys who have played kind of like Ohio State. And like I said before, a lot of these teams have the same question marks, and it comes from the same issues. Both of these teams recruit at a high level, so a lot of these guys were former 4- and 5-star guys. Ohio State has the issue on the defensive line. Texas has it on the offensive line. What I think helps here is how dynamic Texas's backfield is. You know, Cedric Baxter, Quintavion Wisner. I think that even if Ohio State's D-line has a good game, I think Texas's running game can get them out of trouble and can really help Arch. Compared to James Peoples as the running back for Ohio State, where does he settle down? Where does he implement his game into this game? I think he's going to have a good game, but I don't know how much pressure he can take off of Julian Sayin in big moments. So, let's get into my prediction. I think this is going to be a very close game. There are a lot of variables that go into this, but what it comes down to for me is I trust Arch Manning more, and I trust Texas's backfield to help out their young quarterback more than I trust Ohio State. So, I'm taking Texas to win in a close game. The way I see it happening is kind of like the Sugar Bowl, where it's a very close game. Say Ohio State's down by 4, and Julian Sayin it's 4th and 14 from their own 32, and Julian Sayin tries to force a ball because he has to, and Texas takes it back for a touchdown and wins the game by 11 points. Obviously, it's not it's on paper a 2-possession win, but it's not truly that. That's what I could see happening here. Like I said, it came down to Arch, me just believing in Arch a little bit more. I also believe that Texas' pass rush with Colin Simmons, and I think Anthony Hill comes in from the second level of the defense and wreaks havoc. I think Ohio State's offensive line will develop this year. They're just a young group, battle-tested but young group, and I think that shows in this game. So I got Texas winning outright, obviously covering the 1.5-point spread.